Hello and welcome back to the shed. To wrap up the year, I thought I would do something a little bit different today, and that is to thank you all for joining me on this wonderful journey where I've been ranking all the Hugo and Nebula award-winning novels on our Sci-Fi Shed, and some of you have been watching me struggle through and ranking these novels, and today I wanted to present the top 10, what we've come up with for the top 10 in the first year. We're almost about a third of the way there in our quest to finish all the Hugo and Nebula award-winning novels. So I wanted to just go through the top 10 so far this year. So to set the scene, the input criteria that I use to rank these novels is pretty straightforward. I look at things like the plot, how well developed is the plot? Does it include some twists and turns along the way, or is it a pretty straightforward plot? I look at things like the character development. How well developed are these characters? Do they reveal something about humanity that is really captivating or unique? So I look at things like the science fiction element and fantasy elements, and how strong are these themes in these novels. I look at a thing that I call the memory test. Some of these books I read 3 decades ago, like 30 years ago. So I put these books to the memory test as well, where I decide, well, how well have they stood the test of time? And then the final criteria that I use is my overall enjoyment of reading that novel. So without further ado, let's get stuck into the top 10. From 10 to number 1, 10th on the list was Roger Zelazny's This Immortal. So this novel actually shared the Hugo in '66 with June, and it's a bit underrated because of that fact. It's often overlooked, but this is a wonderful novel. Goes into mythology and in a future Earth. Very highly recommend the novel. Wonderful novel. Roger Zelazny's This Immortal, the 1966 Hugo award-winning novel. So next on the list and coming in at number 9 is Ursula Le Guin's The Left Hand of Darkness. This novel won the Hugo and the Nebula in 1970, and it's a wonderful journey of discovery, this one, with the two protagonists going on this wonderful journey in a world where sex and the differentiation of sexes is not really prevalent. Wonderful novel, The Left Hand of Darkness, wonderfully written novel, coming in at number 9. So next on the list we have Joe Haldeman's The Forever War. Coming in at number 7, this one the Hugo and the Nebula in 76-75 respectively. This is a wonderful story that talks to time dilation, the perils of war and the necessity of war, and whether or not militarization is actually worth the hassle. But wonderful novel, Joe Haldeman's Forever War, coming in at number 7. Next on the list and coming in at number 7 is another novel by Ursula Le Guin in Tehanu. I'm holding up here the quartet, the Earthsea Quartet, which is, and Tehanu's actual 4th novel in this book. I reviewed the quartet in one video on this channel, so if you want to see the link below. And all these books have been previously covered, right? They're our top 10 that I've covered this year. So coming in at number 7 is Tehanu. So next on the list, coming in at number 6, is James Blish's A Case of Conscience. This won the Hugo in 1959, and it's one of my all-time favourite novels. What a wonderful novel James Blish, A Case of Conscience is. And this really talks to, if we were to encounter an alien species, how would we reconcile it with the Christian faith, in particular the Catholic faith? I thought it was a wonderful book. Some wonderful ideas and some really clever stories that come out of it. A wonderful novel, A Case of Conscience by James Blish, coming in at number 6. So next on the list and coming in at number 5 is Philip Jose Farmer's To Your Scattered Bodies Go. I love this novel. It was one of the first Hugo and Nebula award-winning novels that I read, and it stuck with me for all those years. The 1972 Hugo award-winning novel talks to a resurrection of the dead. They land up on this enormous river on this strange planet, and they're just trying to come to grips as to what is this afterlife, what are we here for, what's the purpose of all of this. Wonderful novel, To Your Scattered Bodies Go by Philip Jose Farmer. Again, another one of my top 10 of all-time novels. It'll be interesting to see how it stacks up over time when we complete the rest of the Hugo and Nebula award-winning novels, but this is indeed one of my personal favourites. So coming in at number 4 is The Doomsday Book by Connie Willis. Now, I absolutely enjoyed reading this novel. For me, it was the perfect winter's novel. I read it during winter here down under, and I made a review of the novel, and it's just a wonderful piece of writing. And it's a wonderful story about time travel into the 13th century during that terrible era in Europe. Highly recommended read, a wonderful read by Connie Willis that won the Hugo and Nebula and Hugo in 92, 93 respectively. Wonderful novel by Connie Willis. So the top three, I wonder if you can guess, if you haven't been following along, what my top three so far are on the Hugo and Nebula award ranking shed ladder that we've got going on here, but we're going to get stuck right into it just now. So again, one of my all-time favourites, the Hugo award-winning novel for 1964 in Clifford Simak's The Way Station. This again is one of those novels that I read early in my youth that just ignited the passion for science fiction for me. It's a wonderful story of first contact. We have this guy who lives on this way station that plays host to hundreds of galactic species. And he's faced with a real big dilemma when it comes to rescuing or saving Earth. Wonderful novel, Clifford Simak's Way Station, coming in at number 3. I can't say enough about Clifford Simak's Way Station, one of my all-time favourite novels. So coming in at number 2, the Nebula and Hugo award-winning novel for 77 and 78 is Frederik Pohl's Gateway. Now, what a wonderful novel this was. If you want to see the live, uncut, unedited version of me coming to grips as to where this would rank on the radar, and how conflicted I was for such a long time, because this was borderline number 1 for me in Frederik Pohl's Gateway. A wonderful story that talks to the vastness and mysterious Heechee and the artifacts that they left behind, that allows us to travel intergalactic distances at a blink of an eye, and not necessarily at a blink of an eye. Sometimes things don't quite go as planned, and we have the main antagonist, protagonist, anti-hero that is really coming to terms with just how dangerous these missions are on Gateway. What a wonderful novel Frederik Pohl's Gateway is. Great introductions to science fiction, one of my all-time favourite novels. That, as well as the whole Heechee saga, so highly recommended, is Frederik Pohl's Gateway. So coming in at number 1, we have the Nebula and Hugo award-winning novel for 65 and 66 respectively. That shared the Hugo with This Immortal by Roger Zelazny that came in at number 10 is none other than Frank Herbert's Dune. Now, little needs to be said about Dune. It's probably one of the most famous science fiction books of all time. There's been a couple of movies made for Dune. It is still one of my all-time favourite novels, but I don't think it'll remain on top of the list. So we've got a great year coming ahead of us, and I left some of my favourite books for this coming year. So we'll see just how much longer Dune can lead the charts and come in at number 1. So thank you so much for joining me this year on the Sci-Fi Shed. It's been a pleasure and an honour having you on board and me sharing the passion that I have for these wonderful books with you. And I've enjoyed the banter, I've enjoyed the friends that I've made on this channel so far. And I look forward to meeting a lot more of you and making friends along the way. If you haven't seen any of the top 10 reviews to date, I'll put a link below to all of them. Maybe I'll create a playlist for the top 2023 books, Nebula and Hugo award-winning books for the year, so you can quickly go through them all. But I would love to hear your opinion. Would you have ranked them the same way? What are your top 10 novels of all time? These are not necessarily my top 10 of all times. These are just the top 10 that I've read and ranked to date for 2023. So maybe next year we'll do another roundup and we'll see exactly where we land, and I might follow that up with some of my personal top 10 without any criteria applied to them at all, purely based on emotional feelings. Thank you so much yet again. If you would like to see maybe the bottom 5 or the bottom 10, why don't you drop me a note and I'll plan to do that for you if you like. Thanks again so much. It's been a pleasure, and I hope to see you next time in the shed. This Hugo and Nebula award winning historians are basically, and I'll tell you, I'll make some. Welcome back to the shed. Tonight I want to take a look at the 1976. Welcome back to the shed. Okay, let's start again, and we'll start from there. The Hugo award-winning novel. I'm just waiting for the dogs to stop barking. Called, what was the name of the planet? The actual behavior of these people, right? Like the primal. This particular novel in one of the recent books or unboxing videos that I did some time back. And one of the authors in that, but I'm not going to go too far. So the novel was published. So the novel begins with. So the novel begins. So the novel began when David Brenn's. The third novel. What happens with the? In Robert Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land, dang it. Now, Heinlein really set himself a challenge, which was to... Welcome back to... and post-mortem, it was actually... Post-mortem? Post-mortem? And Valentine Michael Smith, or Michael, or Mike, was referred to as a f***wit, really? So when this novel came out, it won the Hugo, as I said, because... And they bring him back to Earth. And Michael's been raised by Martians, so he's very much a Russian, I was going to say. Hello, 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 hello. But humanity lives on in all these settlements that have been propagated through the galaxy. So we have these... dang it, this flies... have been taken on to actually be experimented on. And I've been holding that book upside down. Welcome back. Tonight I want to take a look at the debut album. Welcome back. Tonight I want to take a look at the debut novel by Anne Leckie. Yeah. Welcome back. Tonight I want to take a look at the debut novel. Welcome back. Tonight. Welcome back. The book begins... So this is a very interesting novel. So this is a very interesting novel. It's something... So this is a very interesting novel. So what is that? Wind? Hang on a sec. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time in the shed.